Three, two, one, and we're live. What's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hooksets are free. Welcome back to another live stream. It is Saturday, May the 25th, 2024, 9 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It has been a minute since I've been on. In fact, I'm kind of curious to look back and see when my last live stream was because it's been a little while, guys, and I apologize for that. It's been a full month. Um, what date was that? April the 13th. So it's been like 5, 6 weeks since I've been on, and, I apologize for that. Big part of it was that the Denver Nuggets and the Colorado Avalanche were in the playoffs, and, all was looking good. Unfortunately, they're both out by now, but, it was a fun little run. It seemed like there were games on every single night of the week, so I was just busy watching my boys and hanging out with some buddies. So unfortunately, I didn't wasn't able to make any time for hopping on live and hanging out with you guys. So we're right back at it where we left off. Little Coors Banquet, little yellow jacket, if you will. Cheers, mates. I am streaming direct through YouTube and not through StreamYard tonight. So I don't know if I can post these comments. I can see your comments. I see Frank, first dude in the house tonight. He said, I was hoping um, seeing you in Debo's chat meant that you would go live tonight. How you doing? I am doing well. Thank you very much, Frank. How are you? It is kind of an interesting time of the year for me, and I'll explain that in just a second. But Diggs is in here as well. What's up, dude? Looks like it is just the two of you guys right now. Maybe there's another couple of people in here, but if you are in here, feel free. Please join in the chat. Hang out, stay a while. Let's talk fishing because I'll tell you what's been up with me, and then I'm very curious to know what's been up with you guys, and we can kind of banter back and forth, and then perhaps I was thinking we could do some live shopping on Discount Tackle, but unfortunately, I think through YouTube, I can't share my screen. At least to my knowledge, I don't think I can. But the disadvantage is that I can't share my screen or post your guys' live comments. But the resolution should be better here. It should be in 1080p, whereas on StreamYard, it's an automatic 720 you're uh unless you're a paid subscriber. So I suppose we'll double fist right now. We've got the Coors Banquet, but we've got a fresh bottle of Buffalo Trace, and we might as well crack it as well. So Dustin Taylor in the house. Whatnot was a dry hole tonight. Well, what do you mean by that? It sucked? Or please explain, Dustin. You got two fists of Bud Select right now. Okay, Dustin. Well, cheers then, dude. Gulp, 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 gulp. I also forgot about the fact that since I can't share my screen, I can't show you photos that are on my laptop, which I planned to do. I suppose I can just show them to you from my phone, as I sometimes do. But that's disappointing. I did not think all of that through. Shucks. Probably should have just done it through StreamYard. Travis Stearman in the house. What up? What up? Cheers, mates. Buffalo Trace down the hatch. On the nose of that was a little bit more gas than I'm used to, but the palate is perfect, exactly what I would expect. Um, as I always say, definitely drinks like a higher proof than 90. And that is one of the things that I love about Buffalo Trace. In addition to the fact that it is pretty affordable. I think I spent like 26 bucks for it. You can sometimes find it cheaper than that, but old reliable Buffalo Trace. Frank says he's doing well. He will be bass fishing in 28 days. Yeah, I saw that Rich from Hella Bass, his home opener for bass fishing in Minnesota was today. Went live. I only jumped on that for a minute or two. It was kind of uneventful, and I was in the middle of making food for my children, so I didn't hang on there for very long. But yeah, I forgot that you guys have your delayed opener, so you're less than 1 month away. But pretty cool that Rich caught a couple fish on frogs today. It's interesting that the ice doesn't melt until later there, but then the water seems to warm up quickly, or because the fish aren't fished for, and maybe the habitat's just a little bit different. Um, the fish get more aggressive earlier on. I seem to have a tighter window of time where I can catch them on a frog. Um, the fish are not really blowing up on top waters for me just yet. So yeah, it is what it is. But kind of jealous to hear that Rich was catching him on a frog on his first day of bass fishing in Minnesota. All right, Dustin. So people were wanting too much money for the crap that they're selling. That's too bad, man. Yeah, Dustin, you missed Debo. He hasn't been going live very much as of late either. Um, it felt like for a long time, he and I both were kind of on a regular pattern of weekly streaming, and that has kind of tapered off. I explained it myself, but I think Debo just needed a little bit of a break. And I know he was traveling last week, um, was on a trip with the Burley boys and with Ethan from Fish Everything, which is super cool. Kind of jealous that they got to go on a trip like that. Looked fun. Kirk in the house. What's up, Kirk? Opener is June 14th, where you are. Okay. You're going to be in a big bass derby that day. Nice, man. Good to hear. All right. Well, let me show you. You guys saw in the thumbnail of this video that I have caught a couple of good fish recently. Those were both on the same day. Just I want to say 2 days ago. But I've had a couple of rigs that have been doing the vast majority of the work for me, and I've actually got them both right here. So I'll just go ahead and show them to you. So first up is the swinging Ned jig from VMC. I don't know if you guys have thrown this yet, but it is freaking killer. Um, I do prefer to throw a buoyant soft plastic on the back of it. So I've been mixing it up a little bit in terms of the plastics that I'm throwing on the back of it. But I have kind of settled in on throwing the Baby Z2 in a couple of different colors. This is that morning dawn color that I think is pretty new. At least I didn't have until this year. And this combo here is killing on both smallmouth and just fish that are spawning. Um, I am very much in the swing of things, in the middle of it all. Some of my bodies of water, the fish have not spawned yet. Some they've completely spawned and are done, and some they're locked onto beds. Um, so pretty interesting. We've also got a lot of stormy weather around here, so not all the water is clear. So it makes bed fishing a little bit more challenging. But the swinging Ned jig, what a concept, freaking awesome. And on it is the VMC Nico hook that has a little nylon bait keeper on there. So it keeps that bait up on there. And then that Nico hook has a unique bend to it. So I've been throwing it weedless most of the time. So looks just like this. And you can bring it through the nasty, or you can just thread it straight on there and it works like a dream as well. So I'll show you what that looks like. Yeah, this bait is already pretty trashed. I've already caught 10 or more fish on it. Um, so the nose is kind of acting funny, but did not thread that on there far enough. Okay. And this would be roughly what it would look like. I kind of over threaded that, but that's okay. So you can rig it exposed, and it's pretty damn exposed like that. You might want to go a little bit deeper into the bait. See how that looks. When rigging it like that, you can actually kind of come out the belly. Um, which is cool. You know, please tell me you guys all throw this bait, the Baby Z2, because I've been talking about it kind of nonstop for a long time. Um, that's a little bit better, more appropriately rigged, and she's a beaut. So, cool thing about this Ned jig is that you can fish it on the bottom, and if the bait is buoyant like this one, it will stand straight up. And then as you barely move this thing, it will kind of sway and move around. And then you can also swim it straight through the water column. And with a straight tail bait like this, it is wicked. Assuming that you rig it straight, which makes a huge difference, because if you don't, it's not going to swim straight. It is going to act funny in the water. But if you rig it straight, it's got a really cool swim to it, just a little bit of a wobble, kind of a shimmy as it's swimming, but super cool, super subtle, and very underrated. So I've been doing both. I've caught more fish just fishing it like a Ned rig than on a straight retrieve, but I have caught fish both ways. Definitely highly recommend those jig heads. I am going to purchase some more myself in the green pumpkin. Although this is green pumpkin and I haven't opened them yet. I thought this was black, so I don't necessarily need a fresh pack. This was actually exactly what I was going to pick up from Discount Tackle. I might still, because I like them so well. But yeah, highly recommend. I've been throwing it in the 1/8 ounce size with the bigger hook size. Uh, some of them come with a size 1 hook. Some of them come with a size 3 hook. So the size 3 is a pretty damn small hook. So keep that in mind when you are searching for them and purchasing them. But that rig has been doing great for me. Um, I have been varying the colors of the Baby Z2. So you'll see this is a picture from 10 days ago or so. Caught a couple of smallmouth on that setup, um, and in varying colors. So that's the Baby Z2 in the like Arkansas Shiner color. So a couple of smallmouth on that rig. And then the last few days, I've been absolutely whacking them. I mean, really, it's only been 2 outings, but caught like 15 or so fish, missed a handful more as well. But on this little dude here, you can see that that head is getting beat up. It has put in some work for me. Um, the blade is still in pretty good shape. I've had to retie a handful of times. I will say that the snap on this Evo uh, bent out on me, and I didn't notice until pretty late, and it was actually undone. So I need to replace the snap on this, but not the end of the world. That is one of the components on this bait that is lower quality than what you get out of a jackhammer. So um, not entirely surprising to see that. You'll see that the skirt is starting to uh, tear up a little bit, but also not a huge deal considering the number of fish that I've caught in pretty short order on it. And I actually kind of like the way that it looks when it's, starting to come apart. I did not actually trim this skirt all that much. Um, I've got a Z-Man Turbo Craws on the back of this Evo ChatterBait, which is a ChatterBait trailer that I really do quite like. One, because it's essentially just an Ultra Vibe speed craw, but it's made from Elastic, so it will hang on there significantly better than other trailers. It's the bluegill color, and this is the molting craw colored turbo craws. Well, this bluegill color, I think they actually call it like Bama Bream or Bama Craw. I'm not sure exactly what they call it, but I've been pleasantly surprised with the performance of the Evo ChatterBait. Um, when I first evaluated it, seeing that the head is the original ChatterBait blade, the snap is lower quality, and the hook is one that they do not mention the manufacturer. I was a little bit discouraged, I'll say, but the size of the head and the detail on it, the weight stamped, the size of the blade to head connection is everything. And the bait keeper on this thing is actually pretty sweet. I'll go ahead and take the trailer off just for you to be able to see. It has worked wonders. Um, you'll see that it's hard for me to get that off of there. So it's a dual keeper system. You do get that. Interesting that some of the skirt got stuck inside the bait. You do get that wire bait keeper, plus then I don't even know what to call this, but two bait keepers does an awesome job of holding the bait up on there, especially if you do the old Z-Man trick and pull that neck up over the collar. That bad boy's not coming down. Okay. So Evo ChatterBait starts up pretty quick. Um, I would not say I had any problems with it starting up. I did not have to fiddle with it. So when I say pretty quick, it was not noticeable in terms of it being slower to start up than a jackhammer, but it does not hit quite as hard, especially when a little bit of grass is on there. So you do have to be kind of hyper aware, and it stays down a little bit better than a jackhammer, at least in my experience so far. And that was the ticket, given that the full moon was just a day or two ago. And so I made a point to go out on, I think I went out on Thursday night and then fished yesterday for about 2 hours, middle of the day. It's hard for me to keep track of the days. I'm like, is it Saturday now still? Holiday weekend, it throwing me off a little bit. But I caught about 10, 11 fish on the Evo Thursday night, starting at 10:30 p.m. Um, Couple of them better than others. Sorry that you have to see all the stuff in the background. Let me go ahead and just pull this tab off so I don't look like a psychopath. Um, and you guys might think that, oh, he only keeps one tab open in his web browser. That's cool. Um, so caught a bunch of fish ranging from as small as a pound up to maybe 3 or 3.5. Some decent sized fish, and then some smaller ones. I had a bunch of deer come up on me right at 11:45 p.m. So I fished from 10:30 to 12:30, fishing the full moon, and it was awesome. I caught most of the fish um, up shallow and around 2 docks. And so just paralleling the docks more so than skipping up underneath was doing the trick. Sometimes I would get up under the dock, and then as I was fishing it out, the fish would chase it out and grab it. But I would say 8 of the like 11 fish that I caught came that way, and the other 3 were like on riprap, as I was more so covering water, but around cover, bushes and laydowns and things like that that I know typically hold fish. And then yesterday when I went out, I went to a different lake that I usually get to fish a handful of times per year. Last year, I had bought a pass to that lake for the year and did not quite get my money's worth. It's $10 a day to fish there, or like 65 bucks for the year. Last year, I want to say I went like 4 or 5 times. So I did not buy a pass this year, but showed up at like 11:30 in the morning and fished for a little less than 2 hours and caught this big mama, about a 4.5 pound largemouth. It felt even a little bit bigger than that, but yeah, that one was super fun. And then not but well, it was about an hour later, then caught a big smallmouth, um, almost in this same exact spot. After I had covered a whole bunch of water and moved on and then come back, I was about to wrap up and caught that hoss. So that was super fun, especially to catch 2 big fish, one of each species. And yeah, both on the Evo ChatterBait. So can't complain. That body of water has a lot of grass that has grown up. So crankbait's not going to work there. They weren't hitting wake baits and top water. By the way, I'm seeing you guys might get an ad, so I'll try and burn some time. Hopefully, let me know. Are any of you seeing me right now, or are you gone not seeing this because an ad just hit you? That is weird. YouTube just said some viewers might receive an ad in 30 seconds, and then it counted down. So if you did get an ad just now, I apologize. Um, no real way to control that. That is unfortunate. So, super fun to catch those big fish. That might have been like my PB smallmouth, actually. Um, and I think it was just shy of 4 pounds, whereas that largemouth was more like 4.5. But oh, Frank's got premium YouTube, never sees ads. Well, good for you, Frank. Nice. So yeah, smallmouth around here tend to run a little bit smaller. There's two bodies of water less than an hour from me that have big smallmouth in them, and they're hard to track down. I don't have a boat, I don't have electronics, so until that happens, it's going to be luck of the draw. It's going to be right time, right place that I catch a smallmouth north of 3 pounds, and then I catch a largemouth north of 5 pounds. I do catch a few 4 pounders every year, but the vast majority of the fish that I catch here are in that 2 to 3 pound class. And yeah, so that felt super good and well worth the $10. I was riding a super high for, at least a few hours after catching both of those fish yesterday. And pumped that I could get out during the full moon, because usually this is one of the best times of the year for me to fish, especially since fish are in all phases of the spawn. Um, if I can catch them when it's like pre-spawn to spawn, that's primo. That early post spawn can sometimes be a little bit tricky, but yeah, turns out that in that body of water yesterday, with it being so grassy, and them not blowing up on top, and it being windy, and the water clarity being off, meant that I could not see fish on beds, and that I was getting grass on anything and everything I was throwing. So chatterbait was one of my best options by a long shot. I could have thrown a fluke or another, weedless Texas rig, something like that. But um, I was hoping that the fish would be aggressive. So I threw a chatterbait, caught that big largemouth um, pretty early after getting there. So I just locked it in my hands and made the most of the time that I had there, and just tried to fish through the grass, and it worked. So super happy about that. But yeah, I have not been fishing bedding fish. I have not been sight fishing as much as I thought I would have been by now. But I also have only been getting out maybe twice a week for a couple hours at a time. And it's been real scrappy. I've been going to all sorts of different bodies of water. It's not like I've been able to lock in and know exactly what the fish are doing on one specific body of water. So that makes it a little bit tricky. But, it just kind of comes with the territory, given that I am fishing when I can. And my wife is working weekends, so I don't have a lot of time on my hands. I'm either fishing occasionally at night, which will go up as the summer um, gets warmer and the fish get more aggressive at nighttime, or I'm fishing, an hour or two after work. And sometimes it's about convenience and, where the nearest pond or lake is to where I was working that day. So it is what it is, but I am curious to know. Um, I'm going to catch up on your comments, and then I want you guys to tell me what you've been up to. Um, what phase of the spawn? I assume a lot of you guys, your fish are uh, post spawn by now, but those of you up north, you tell me. Do you even know, since you may or may not be fishing for bass? Um, and for everybody, what has been your most productive couple of baits so far this year? And do you have any recommendations for me to try? Because as you guys know, I am always on the lookout for new baits, always trying new things, always acquiring more than I need, and not trying everything that I've picked up. So um, that bad habit will continue, but I will continue to discover new things, and am excited. Uh, you see, I'm not making direct eye contact with you because I'm looking all around, looking at all the new stuff that I've picked up over the last year or so, realizing what I, perhaps should be putting more time into. You know, I have thrown this guy a few times, the Z-Man Molotron, and I think I've only caught one fish on it so far, but definitely like the action. It is super subtle, but because of the Elastec, it has some decent buoyancy and does allow for you to ride it higher in the water column. It will have the same action regardless of how fast or slow you're fishing it. So, um, super cool bait. I'm excited about it. But so Dustin says northern bass will go from pre-spawn to done in 2 weeks. Yeah, same for me. But usually that's right around now. It's usually not until about the May full moon that the fish really push up. If the body of water is smaller or we've had particularly warm weather, that can happen weeks before. It's not always centered around the full moon, but it's usually the latter half of May and the front half of June. On the whole, here in Colorado, that I notice all of the bed fishing happening. Now I've fished a bunch of bodies of water that I say a bunch, but I mean like four or so that I've actually caught bedding fish at, and then probably half or more of the bodies of water that I've been to, I've not seen evidence of fish being on beds. So tricky thing is I'm not going back to all of those bodies of water on a regular basis, so I'm likely to miss the spawn in a lot of those places, and it is what it is. But yeah, it's different everywhere. Now you say in 2 weeks, are you saying currently and 2 weeks from now, um, or that's already happened, or it will happen in the future, but it all happens in 2 weeks? Dustin, you're about 6 hours from Hella, north or south. You have Fry completely abandoned by the Bucks. Interesting. I've noticed that in just a couple places near me, but not many. I would say a vast majority that has not yet happened. Um, so interesting that I can be further south than you in Colorado, but higher elevation, colder water temps. Um, once we get kind of a gradual warm up where we get a true 4 seasons here in Colorado. Winter doesn't end until end of March, mid-April, and that's when we see the thaw out of lakes and ponds. But then it takes a while for things to warm up. Like we have not had more than a couple days where the weather has been 80 degrees. And so with that mild weather, the water doesn't warm up all that quick. Like today was a nice day. Right now it's 54 degrees. It's still going to get down to 45. Um, so you can see, like, for the next week, this is what we're looking at. The lows are in the 40s and the highs are in the 70s. It's going to be warmer this week than it has been. Um, so it doesn't happen until Memorial Day, beginning of summer. My kids just got out of school this week, and that's kind of what happens. Is that once we start to hit June, July, August, it's hot, and that's when everything kind of picks up quickly. And then once we get into September, it starts tapering off. October, it starts to get cold. So, um, yeah, we have true seasons, and it takes a little while to warm up. Dustin asked probably 10 or 15 minutes ago, what's your in what is your opinion? What in your opinion is the best swing head under a half ounce? Hmm. Best swing head under a half ounce. Well, that's an interesting question because I would say most swing heads are that half or three quarters. Um, this dude right here is the Biffle jig, right? That one I think was less than a half ounce. And then this dude, the Berkeley, I believe it is. Berkeley's got a good one with a unique head shape. Different style bait keeper. I don't necessarily love that bait keeper. Um, but it's got a Fusion 19 hook on it. And I do like that one. And then who makes this one? I cannot remember, but that is a good question, sir. I don't know. Sorry that I don't have a great answer for that. Yes. Yes, go ahead. My daughters are awake. Um, they just whispered real loud if they can just go to bed in my bed. So the answer is yes, and hopefully they go to bed right now. 505. That green one was a VMC swing head. Um, you might be right. Oh, you're saying the black one was? Really? This guy is a VMC? Maybe you're right. That hook, I don't know, dude. Um, let's take a quick little gander. Berkeley Fusion 19 swing head. Take a look again, brother. Look it up. The Berkeley Fusion 19 swing head jig. I could just tell from the feeling of the hook, dude. That ain't no VMC. Um, so anyway, yeah. I do like a good swing head, but like you, um, I don't fish a ton of deep water, and when I do, I get snagged a lot, and I can't go retrieve those baits. So I have had the thought to throw quarter ounce, 3/8 ounce swing heads, and have not executed on that. So when you say best under a half ounce, I don't know that I can give you a legit good answer on that, but those are the few that I have and will throw. But for now, I'll say I've got a ton of confidence in this and would highly recommend it. There's a bunch of good Ned baits on the market right now. So if you're willing to go extra finesse or throw a smaller bait, do that because the swinging Ned jig um, comes up to 3/8. So as long as you're willing to throw a smaller hook all the way down to a, you know, I think a size one is the biggest that comes on that. So just keep that in mind. But really cool setup. 505. I have thrown the Hellraiser twice. I have it rigged on a rod upstairs, and it has not been the right time or place for it. As I was saying, there's only been a couple of times that I've fished where I have noticed fish busting on top. Now I have not gotten them to come up and eat on top for me. So I've been throwing wake baits primarily, but I've thrown the Hellraiser, I've thrown the plopper, I've thrown a popper. I don't know if I've thrown a walking bait, but I've mixed it up. I've even thrown weightless fluke and tried to get him to blow up on top, but it's just not happening for me. But 505, I have not, dude. Um, no issues so far. No, I've not thrown it into tons of rocks, where inevitably you're going to get snagged on anything, right? But no, it is remained pretty solid and weedless for me. So highly recommend, and it's a good deal, right? I think you pay $5 for 3 of them. So like I said, if you're willing to throw a smaller bait, I think there's something about that pointed head and that 90-degree line tie, um, that makes a difference in how it fishes. But I have found it to be very good and weedless. So you can see just how much freedom of movement that thing has. I used to throw the Freedom tackle swing heads a little bit, and then I just lost confidence in them. Um, don't ask me why, but obviously the most appealing thing about this swing head is the fact that you can swap the hook, right? So I would just opt to throw a Gamakatsu. Like this one is an EWG Superline. You could throw a BKK hook on there. You could throw a Fusion 19, whatever it is that suits your fancy, and you just twist it right on there. Now, the thing that's annoying about it is that the gauge of wire that this thing goes on is relatively small, and it bends pretty easily. So once you change your hook on it 4 or 5 times, then you're kind of torquing the inside of this head, and it's almost like it doesn't want to be changed all that frequently. But you can put any hook that you want on there, which is cool. So then you can throw a bait as big as you want, and you could throw a weedless hook on. You can throw a flipping hook on there. You could throw a worm hook. Um, so you have a lot of versatility with it, but you have that slightly different line tie on it. It is a football head. Um, I've had decent luck with these, but just over time, gotten a little bit frustrated with them. And I would say I am either throwing a Texas rig or I'm throwing a swim jig or a chatterbait more so than throwing a swing head. And, if I'm banging rocks, I'm just as confident throwing a chatterbait as I am a swing head. And I think that's just personal preference and what I have come into over the last handful of years. I've gotten very in tune with throwing a chatterbait and like to throw it around rock. So a 3/8 ounce chatterbait for me is super versatile. Half ounce, a little bit less so, but one that you can control and get down and really be banging the rocks, especially if you're fishing a little bit deeper. But I throw that 3/8 a lot. Dustin is in West Central Illinois. Okay, so you're south of Rich. Um, so not terribly surprised to hear what you were saying. But whoa, Diggs hasn't fished yet. Get out of here. I mean, I guess if you can't fish for bass, then what are you doing? Maybe is kind of what you're thinking. Um, Diggs says they're done in PA too. Interesting, Dustin. You were on a lake today and you can walk. Um, the fry are already half to three-quarters of an inch long and big pods of them. I've seen that in one or two places, but yeah, growing quick, huh? The lake that I was at yesterday when I was paying my $10, the guys, um, the rangers, if you will, the guys that took my money, um, said that they just stocked largemouth and smallmouth fry um, like a month ago. And so to keep that in mind for a couple years down the road, I don't think many places here in Colorado stock bass on a regular basis. It is just not a thing. We are such trout fishermen that a lot of places would actually consider bass an invasive species, which is so silly, but I guess it does affect the trout fishing. So it requires them to stock trout more frequently. And yeah, I'm sure that the trout fishing gets worse pretty quickly once the trout catch on to the fact that the bass are trying to eat them. They need to seek refuge. They can't just do their thing and go eat bugs on the surface and not worry about predators. Um, but that said, there are a lot of northern pike and other predators much bigger than the rainbow trout, which are typically stocked. And we have lots of different variations of trout um, here in Colorado. So, oh, the banquet, so delicious. Frank says I use the Strike King tungsten wobble heads so that I can pick my hook. Um, striking tungsten wobble heads. Interesting. I can opt to skip ads. Whoa. There was just something that said you guys were going to get another ad, and then it said something like skip ads. I just saved your guys' butts, huh? Strike King tungsten wobblehead. Let's take a peek. Oh, right. Okay, I've seen these. In fact, I thought I had some somewhere. Um, maybe not in here. Interesting. So I just got fooled because I saw a loose wobblehead. Um, saw this one right here and thought, oh yeah, no, I do have some. But no, this is not exactly the same thing. These are both two closed eyelets, and it's the same wobblehead as this one. However, I didn't notice that these ones, look at that. It's like you need to pinch the hook. Um, because look, I could just take that hook right off of there. That's no bueno. Um, I never noticed that, and it's not like you can exactly easily swap a hook onto that thing. Um, right? I mean, how many hooks are going to come? Yeah, most of them are either soldered or they're already, made super tight. Oh, come on, let go. Let go. Do you guys store any of your hooks like this on pins like that? I don't think I could bend any of these out really. Most of the hooks that I carry are Gamakatsu, sometimes Trocar or Mustad. More recently, a little bit of BKK, and then Owner. Carry a lot of Owner and Gamakatsu, sprinkled in with a little bit of Trocar and Mustad for the most part, especially when it comes to worm hooks and EWG hooks, things like that. All right. Dustin said, I always throw a half ounce or bigger swing head, but last year my co won using a 5/16 ounce swing head with the Z-Man Zinkers. And this spring, a co beat me using a Strike King half ounce with a Rage Craw, and my football jig / cross suck. That's funny. Um, yeah, so I bet that'll make you think a little bit more than before, huh? Uh, but what an interesting combo, a 5/16 with a Zinkers on the back. Um, I would not throw a Zinkers on the back of a wobblehead. That's just me. There's so many other baits that I would probably prefer to throw. Um, and I'm usually going to throw something that rides the line between a craw and a beaver. So, up here on the wall, the Rage Punch Bug, I do see as more of a uh, punch bait, flipping bait, or Texas rig bait. But the Rage Bug or Magnum Rage Bug is still such a go-to for me. Has been for years and years. That would be one of my primary baits that I would throw on it. Or Reaction Innovations Spicy Beaver, something like that. A bait that has kind of a middle of the road type of action. Maybe a Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. Something of the sort. There's a lot of baits in that category. Especially if you flipped over to Z-Man. You could go with the Turbo Craws is the same thing as the Ultra Vibe Speed Craw. The Goat is more like a Menace grub from Strike King, but is an awesome bait. I definitely prefer it to the Helicross, which in my opinion, I have not loved the Z-Man Helicross. And that is just my opinion, but I'll show you guys. So there's that Turbo Cross. I already showed you guys on the back of that ChatterBait. I absolutely love it. I always carry it in a handful of different colors. Looks like I've only got it in 4 or 5 colors right now, but then the Helicross, I did pick up in a couple of colors, and I fished it a handful of times. Looks good, Profile looks solid, right? You would think it should have great action. It's got the flanges, but I don't know if it's that these are a little too close together and maybe need to be trimmed, or what it is about the bait, but there's a significant difference in performance between that and the old trusty Turbo Cross. You know, this it's like these legs are a little bit too heavy and not long enough, whereas these guys are lightweight and longer and thinner. Um, if fished at anything faster than a medium slow retrieve, the Turbo Craws is fantastic. The Helicross, I have not found a good speed for it. I don't really dig it. So to each their own. There's always going to be some baits that I'm not a big fan of. Interestingly enough, the Zinkers happens to be one of those baits as well. I just find that if I'm going to throw a Senko style bait, I want the fall rate to be ideal, and I don't care about durability. However, the goat would be an awesome bait to throw on a swing head. And there's one other by Z-Man, creature bait, not the Gremlins, although that's a good one, but the oh shite, what's it called? Got another box of Z-Man stuff that I can. Is it this one? I hope so. I've got so much Z-Man stuff. No, these are all worms. All worms. The bang sticks, the fatties, the finesse worms, the long shots, the turbo fatties. Turbo fatties would be a great bait to throw on the back of a swing head. Mag fatties, sleeper of a bait. Got the giant TRDs in here. Ooh, there's a bait that would be awesome on a swing head. I talk about this bait a couple times a year. This is the 9-inch grubs. Such a cool bait. Big ass body. Okay. This is the motor oil color. I mean, take a look at that. It's a good 4-inch body and a long curly tail. This is no joke of a grub. Huge grub, in fact. Really great action on it. Awesome on a chatterbait, awesome on a swim jig, awesome on anything that swims. So if you're throwing a swing head and you're banging that on bottom, you might want to consider the 9-inch grubs from Z-Man as a sleeper bait. It's got just enough body on it to where you could throw a 5/0 hook in there, no problem. Really cool bait. But I don't really understand throwing a Senko on a swing head. Especially when you could go with so many other you know, a swimming worm or even a trick worm style bait, the Z-Man finesse worms is such a good one. But I don't know. The Zinkers, I guess, would do. Just not my deal. I don't throw it often. In fact, I would throw the Strike King Zero more frequently than the Zinkers. It's essentially the same bait, but um, I don't even know where I have the Zinkers right now. Megaforce Mark in the house. Basking with Big Malone in the house. What's up, guys? How are you doing tonight? We're up to 17 people right now. Cheers. I don't know whether 17 is a lot or a little, but I suppose it's decent for us, especially when we started out with so few. We've only got 6 thumbs up in here. So, guys, do me a quick favor. Hit that thumbs up button. We've been on here for an hour. We'll hang out a bit longer, whatever it is that you guys want to talk about. Um, let me know what has been your top producing bait so far this year. What was, if you haven't fished this year, if you're waiting on opener to come, what was your top producing lure last year? And on the flip side, what have you picked up in the past year that you are most excited to throw this year, or perhaps have the most confidence in without having thrown just yet? You know, it's like I keep making eye contact with this bait. I just watched that smallmouth crush video, you know, where Travis absolutely whacked him on this bait and acted like a somewhere between a crazy person and hilarious, awesome dude that he is. Um, he was talking about, you know, you got to be the bait, and then he literally was talking to the juvie craw the entire time, and it made for hilarious content. Very, very good, funny video. But the Great Lakes finesse stuff intrigues me, although I have not fished with it a tremendous amount just yet. I've thrown their finesse worm a couple of times. Definitely stiffer than I thought it would be, but it does have good action. All right, so Frank says striking just sells the weight, not the hook. Right. No, I definitely got that from what you were saying. And when I looked it up, sorry that I can't share my screen to show you guys, but yeah, it is just a weight with a little, it's almost like the same type of concept as what you'd see inside the Freedom Tackle swing head jig. And maybe I'll just force this hook off of here. On the one that I was trying to do it to, that I put too thick of a wire of hook on here. But let me get this off of here. You're coming off, like it or not, buddy. Okay. So the Strike King head, you do just get the head. It's got the line tie on one side. And then instead of inside the head, you get something similar to this. It's just about half the size. It doesn't go all the way around, and it's protruding from the head. So you just kind of screw on just like a half turn whatever hook you want to put on the head. So cool concept, same type of deal, right? Just by the head, and then you can pick your hook. Maybe it's a Gamakatsu Superline EWG, or let's go ahead and just for the sake of it, pick a different hook and we'll screw that on. What about What about a smaller hook? Not much smaller, but this has been a hook that I've liked for years. So we're gonna go down from what looks to be a 4/0 super line to maybe a 3/0 mustad grip pin hook. And you do have to be aware of what direction you put this on, because if you put it on, like I'm just gonna guess right now, and we'll see whether it's right side up or upside down. Turns out I put this on right, but you could put it on upside down and then you got to take it off and put it back on. So now we've got a slightly smaller hook that does have a bait keeper. I like that grip pin. The mustad's not quite as sticky, not nearly as thick as a Superline EWG, but still a good one. And it's that easy to just swap out the hook, and if I change my mind, and just go ahead and twist that right back off of there. Little bit sticky on these freedom heads, but then she's off. Okay, so pretty cool concept, but the Strike King is going to be tungsten and likely a little bit more expensive, but perhaps a little more versatile, and you'll get more feel, which is a cool feature. So um, thank you, Frank, for the recommendation. You're probably going to pay in the ballpark of $3 a head for those, so do got to keep that in mind, but is what it is. Again, we're drinking Buffalo Trace tonight, and we're drinking Coors Banquet tonight. Cheers, everybody. You know what I haven't used yet is the new Rattlesnaker. There's a million things that I haven't used yet. I think I've only fished the Colshad once or twice so far. Now, I've talked about this bait before. The Jackal Swing Mikey, I had some good success on last summer. I still have it tied on. I'm probably going to leave that tied on throughout the duration of this summer. I really like that bait as a wake bait slash swim bait that has a super cool looking action to it. So that's the Jackal Swing Mikey 115. I think they make it in 2 or 3 different sizes, but used to be a JDM only bait, and now I think, don't quote me on it, but I think they brought it to the US, and real good bait. Also have not tried fishing the core tackle hooks yet that I bought and then pre-rigged a couple of these dudes. I've thought about it a couple times, and I've just noticed in a lot of the places that I go fishing or have been going fishing that the grass is growing up so fast. So unfortunately, I have to go weedless, and there will be a time this year where I can throw an exposed head. So no big deal. What? Mark says, "This is great, y'all. I'm fishing a creek and watching the live." No way, Mark. What time is it where you are? Um, do you have a headlamp on? Do you have the light of the full moon? How are you watching the live while fishing? And however you are, that is super cool and does sound great. So thank you for joining, Mark. Hope you're catching some fish. Have you caught anything yet? And how's the fishing been for you so far this year? Actually, you say jerkbait so far this year. Whopper Plopper 75 bluegill last year. I want to work on plastics, tube, etc. this year. Yeah, the tube, such an underrated bait. And one that, like, over the last couple of years, I've made a point to kind of stock up a little bit more on tubes and try some different ones. And then I don't use them as much as I thought I would, you know. Still, perhaps one of my favorite tubes of all time is the Kitech Salty Core Tube. Hookup ratio, not fantastic. The Max Scent tube is one that I wanted to throw more of. I bought a bunch of when I started catching them on tubes pretty well a couple of years back. You know, the coffee tubes from Strike King have been probably some of my best producing, but the Fat Ica and some other backsliding baits. You know, the Fat Ica is probably most like the Salty Core tube in that it is a solid body, um, a bait that is designed to be backslid as much as it is to be fished like a tube. You don't throw a tube insert into it, but yeah, it's more of a pitching bait that then will backslide or back glide, however you consider that technique to be. Let me skip. Let me skip. Oh, I don't know why they're trying to catch you with ads again, but I just skipped those last second, so you're welcome. So backsliding baits have become more of a thing, and something that I'm more and more interested in. I'm looking at some geek crack baits. I did buy all of these baits, and I've been meaning to try them, but haven't just yet. The bug pea looks pretty sick. Am I right? I mean, that's a big bug. Uh, I guess it's only 3.5 inches, but looks pretty big. The 2.2 looks sweet. Like, if it's gonna be a bug bait, it needs to be properly sized. At least I would think. Although, kind of depends on how you're rigging it. This could be a crawfish, or it could be a bug. But I just kind of think it's either a drop shot or a free rig. You know, something that's gonna kind of sit in front of their faces for a little bit longer. And then I think we had talked about how last year the cover scat was like a surprisingly good bait for me. And I don't know why surprisingly, but it's another one like the Geek Crack Bellows Gill a few years back that caught me off guard. I was not expecting that a bait with little to no action would perform so well. But it did. The OSP Spin Nuts finally came out with bigger sizes. This is the 80 size. So this year, I'm definitely going to be throwing more of these poo style baits. This is a cool rendition because it's different, right? If you noticed last year at was it the Classic or at ICAST, that a few US companies, you know, Spro and who else came out with a poo style bait? But the OSP Spin Nuts has this almost cupped face. It's more pointed than anything, but it makes for a subsurface walking bait. Um, and it's got a cool design where you get all of those slots for the hook to come through, depending on the size of the hook that you want to throw. And then it is tail heavy. So cool profile on that spin nuts. Um, I have not had an opportunity or even thought to throw those just yet. And one that I'm kind of kicking myself now for not having thrown just yet is the elastomer bellows shad. I never. Oh, you're right, Lucas. Missile baits and Spro. I mean, dare we call it same family of companies? I don't think so, but um, close, right? So the bellows shad, elastomer. This is screaming that it wants to be a chatterbait trailer, that it wants to be a swim jig trailer, free rig, drop shot, swing head, Texas rig. I don't care what you do with it. You could flip this thing. But the elastomer part of it is going to make it interesting. So long as you've got some weight on it, this thing's going to be killer. So I think as a trailer, spinner bait, buzz bait, chatterbait, swim jig, all of the above could be fantastic. In addition to some other weighted rigs that you might fish the bait by itself and not on a head or one that's moving. But I have so many baits that I need to try, guys, and so many that I probably purchased and need to give away. How about the shindig? It's a Ned rig bait. There's so much crap. These big whales need to make their way onto the wall somewhere. I've got all these swim baits here. Maybe these Kitex don't need to be sitting here. Now that I look up at the wall, I'm like, what are these panoramas doing here? Where do I even throw the panorama? Guys, will you, would you throw the panorama? This is the middle size at 6.5 inches. I mean, it's such a cool looking and appealing bait, but where does it actually come into play? I don't know. Love the look, but hard to gain confidence in it before throwing it. There's some baits that you get and that you're going to be confident in how it performs. Now, I've owned this bait in smaller sizes. This is the BAMF shad from 13 Fishing. And I mean, very well designed bait. Very good swim on it. Huge profile. Awesome bait. That's one that, like, the second you get your hands on, you realize what it's going to do for you. And there are a lot of baits like that. Some you need to actually get out on the water. You get your initial first impressions and think, huh, okay, so it's got a ton of theoretical action to it. How well does it perform on the water? Um, I'm more or less excited about it, but some you get in your hands and you just know that's a winner. Um, I need to take that out immediately. And dare I say that the Mulletron from Z-Man was kind of one of those. I would say that the Evo ChatterBait was actually kind of an in-betweener for me. I was not super stoked about it until I started using it and was pleasantly surprised. So I would not say that it's quite as good as a jackhammer, um, but if you've never thrown a jackhammer and you're just stepping up from previous models, definitely go to the Evo. Um, but if you're a jackhammer guy or gal, don't necessarily expect that the Evo is going to do everything that the jackhammer does or excel in the same situations. Um, I would say in pre-spawn and in the fall, the jackhammer is going to have a leg up on the Evo. But otherwise, I think the Evo is going to be almost as good as the jackhammer in a lot of situations. It's a very good bait. You just may or may not have to replace it more frequently. I've had a couple jackhammers that lasted me 50 plus fish. Fantastic. So I'm a jackhammer guy through and through, and that might have factored into why I was a little hesitant about the Evo. But Mark, you were throwing that Whopper Plopper 75 last year, huh? I love that bait. I've gotten a little bit away from it, and all the Whopper Ploppers over the last 2 years or so. Um, and really for no good reason other than just getting into newer baits. Here's some 75s. Um, I wanted to just pull out one, but I pulled out five. Um, as you can tell, I like the Whopper Plopper 75. This dude here is perhaps my favorite. Has gotten smoked. Uh, probably got 50 or more fish on this specific bait. I would say a couple of years ago, this was one of my go-to baits in the summertime at night. Um, love that bait. So you're kind of reminding me that maybe I need to go back to it, dude. Oh, take it easy. 505 says Z-Man CFL is money, the swimming version. Um, that's that's not my favorite chatterbait, dude. Um, so Freedom Tackle and Z-Man paired up for a couple of those customizable, just like I showed you with the swing head. They made a football head and a swim head chatterbait. I did not think either one of them were executed perfectly. In fact, I would put them closer to the bottom of Z-Man chatterbaits. I don't know if this is the right box or if I just have the skirts in this box, but we'll find out in a second here. Mini Max, underrated. Got Picasso's. Now, this one I do kind of like. I caught a couple really good fish on that guy. So the heads aren't in here, but all the skirts are. Um, some of them I switched the hook on, some of them I didn't, but the Freedom Tackle chatterbait heads I did not love. Um, I wish I had them handy on me right now to be able to show you why, because I don't. But I would not say they're money. Oh, maybe I have them here. What a snag last minute. Right as I was giving up. Okay, so here's the football head. I know you said that's not the one you're talking about, but look at the size of that freedom of movement. That's not horrible. And then here's the swimming head. That I wouldn't quite call it horrible, but that is not what I'm looking for in a blade to head connection. One, that's far from making contact with the head, and two, that loop is pinched, not nearly as round as it needs to be. And that is something that kind of bothers me. You know, I would say once they finally got to the cross-eyes chatterbait, they started doing it right and paying attention to the size of that eye. So the cross-eyes chatterbait is an awesome weedless chatterbait. But if you're looking for just a um, straight jig head, this one's not bad. And this one is slightly better. So I wish I remembered what both of these are called, but both of these are made by Z-Man and are great baits. The big blade, on the other hand, I don't know what it is. The blade might be too big. The bait might be too big. Something about it just didn't do the trick for me and my fish. The cross eyes did a much better job for me. Now, on the finesse side, the little guy with the ball head has been fantastic for me. Let's see if I can find it real quick. The Willow Vibe has been awesome for me, but the two that I was just talking about were the Z-Man Diesel Chatterbait, which is essentially made to be a saltwater chatterbait designed to pair up perfectly with the Diesel Minnows 4-inch swim bait by Z-Man. And the other one I showed you was the Ice Strike chatterbait. Those are all great. But the Willow Vibe is underrated and it's different. The Willow Vibe has a willow blade on the front of it. So it's not hexagonal, but rather a willow blade shape and has a much more subtle action to it and is awesome. It's definitely a finesse bait. Comes with smaller hooks on it. Still stout, but to where you need to downsize your presentation and throw something like, a 3 or 3.5 inch bait on there. What I typically throw is none other than the Baby Z2 by Strike King. And like that's my standard, just like I was showing you guys on that Ned swinging head. Swinging Ned rig jig by VMC. That Baby Z2 is the deal. So, Frank, you want to get your hands on some Glide Camerons? Is that what you're talking about? Right there? I believe that's a backsliding bait. I was talking about backsliding baits. I picked these up, I want to say from Discount Tackle just about a month ago. Very interesting looking bait, right? Straight out of the pack. That is how the claws want to point. So that is what you get. And then you get that notch there. So you can tell that you're supposed to rig it in the nose and then come out the butt. You see the hook slot in the butt and then the marks for your hook to come out. So this is a backsliding bait. Um, not all that different than what I was just talking about with the Salty Core tube from Kitech. So cool that some of these baits are now available stateside. The Glide Cameron, I have not tried yet, but did pick up, I want to say 2 packs of about a month or maybe 2 ago. And I am curious about them. I look at them from time to time and think, when and where are we going to do some damage with you, good sir? Diggs outdoors. He's out. Good night. I'm probably 5 or 10 minutes late on that. No big deal. Thanks for hanging out, dude. Sorry if you're already gone. If so, I don't know why I'm talking to you, but thank you for hanging out. We got 16 people in here. 10 thumbs up. Do me a solid if you haven't already. Hit that thumbs up and jump in the chat. We got Lucas Flint in here. Missile baits. Yeah, I think I already addressed that, but yeah, the poo style baits. Some of these poo baits already existed, right? So it's an interesting market that we're in, but missile baits and Spro blatantly came out with their own poo baits that are almost exact copies of the cover scat last year. And what can you do? It would be one thing if they were cheaper than the actual thing. If you get more than 5 per pack and they would cost less than $10 per pack, but unfortunately that's not the case. I'm surprised that Berkeley or somebody else, maybe even Rapala, didn't jump on that and come out with a 4-inch bait that you could get 8 in a pack for $6 or something and sell a shitload of them. But that didn't happen. Lucas said Evo versus Slobber Knocker. Um, I like the Evo better. The Slobber Knocker for me was one that I had to impart a little bit more action on in order to get to do its job. Um, and that's just me personally, right? I don't have all that much against the Slobber Knocker. Um, I just find that um, the blade doesn't travel as much, and so it's a little bit more prone to getting stuck. And I think there's a reason that Z-Man has the patent and has executed so well on it. There's a reason that the Thunder Cricket is, licenses the Z-Man patent. The Slobber Knocker tried to go around that. They made a pretty good bait, but I think it falls into the same category as a Picasso or a bunch of other bladed jigs that are good, right? Nothing horrible about it. I'm not going to complain too much, but it's not going to be like a super regular in my arsenal, if you will. I just kind of put it in the same category as like the striking rage blade as a bladed jig that does a good job of producing that bladed jig action. And because of the way that it's positioned, it wants to and will come through wood better than a majority of other chatterbaits that have a uh that have a tendency to roll on their side and get snagged up in wood. So is it my favorite? No. But do I like it? Sure. Yeah. 505. Yep. Same boat. You say I used to use the coffee tubes also and then found Maxent and now that's all I use. Well, I'm with you there, dude. Lucas, the red one did look like a Picasso, but that was the diesel minnows or diesel chatterbait. Chatterbait diesel. What did I say? Um, I think I said diesel chatterbait. Yep. It's on sale for $5 right now. You get one in a pack. The Ice Strike on sale, you get two in a pack for $6 to $7, a little bit cheaper. Willow Vibe, I believe you get two in a pack, $4.79. Again, smaller bait. Z-Man makes a lot of good chatterbaits. The Flashback Mini, the Chatterbait Micro, the Mini Max, a lot of good ones. The Cross Eyes on them and the Mini Max are your favorite 505. Both awesome baits. Yep. And for slightly different reasons, right? I mean, the Mini Max is a downsized profile, has great action, starts up quick, uh, subtle, cheap, great bait, well executed. But the Cross Eyes is more of a jig with the ability to be a chatterbait, comes through wood better than the others I was just talking about, and is one that you can fish like a jig, but with the action of a chatterbait in terms of when you lift up, you're going to get that thump and then kill it. So I fish it on a hop style retrieve much more than I do a jackhammer or any other chatterbait. So I'm with you. Very good baits. Bass Pundit says, I caught a lot of fish on that big blade last year. Haven't thrown it much so far this year. Yeah, I only caught like 2 fish on it last year and just put a little bit more time into it than I wanted to. Found that I needed to throw it on a totally different setup than what is a typical chatterbait rod and reel for me. So I didn't like having to cater to the bait so much. Now, that said, who knows if that's hypocritical, because there's a bunch of other baits like the Mini Max and all of those smaller chatterbaits I was just talking about, from the Willow Vibe down to the Micro and the Mini, um, that need to be thrown on their own setups. But the big blade, I'm not always bringing along a heavy power rod if I'm not going to be frogging or flipping. Um, I'll still throw a Texas rig on a medium heavy setup a majority of the time. So Lucas says, I like the crazy flapper from Kitech. Dude, so good. I absolutely love the crazy flapper. For the longest time, it's been a favorite bait of mine, but it's kind of gotten put on the back burner for me for no particular reason. I don't even know where the majority of my crazy flappers are. I know where my little ones are. So for the for the sake of showing them off, I'll show them. On a micro jig, this is one of my absolute favorite trailers. This is the 2.8 crazy flapper. And what's cool about this, dude, is that it's customizable. So it has 4 appendages kickers. And what you can do is take off the sides and make it this wild looking, almost squid inline type of presentation, which I would less frequently do, and more frequently remove the middle 2, and then you've just got somewhere in between a beaver and a craw type of, it's more like a rage craw than anything. But believe it or not, I usually leave all of them in, I separate them all, but then leave them all on there. And you get just this crazy amount of kick and flail that's not as wide as a rage craw, but just as aggressive in its own right. Very, very good bait. Not super durable, but super good. And I've got it in all the sizes. They have it from the 2.8 to the it's a 3 point something, and then all the way up to like a 4.3, which is a big bait. And love the crazy flapper. Lucas is right. Great action at all speeds. Bassin' with Big Malone, I've not thrown that Kitech Beaver yet. So, do I have it handy is the real question. That Kitech beaver is something else. And I don't know where it is. Sadly. It's a crazy looking bait though. So no, haven't thrown it yet. I'll keep you posted as and when I do throw it, but that's one that I'm still trying to wrap my head around is like when and where is the time to place that bait? You know, do I throw it on a wobblehead? Do I throw it on a Texas rig? Do I throw it as a trailer on something? Free rig? I'm not totally sure. Uh, it's an interesting bait, and I don't quite know what to do with it, but I'm glad they brought it stateside. At least I think so. But I haven't thrown it, dude. I don't know. Yeah, 505. I also really like the Thunder Cricket. Um, that's what I caught my first few fish on this season. Um, and I've had good success on it ever since I've thrown it. Um, I wish the skirt was hand tied, but honestly, I don't care all that much about it. Now you're saying you don't like the rubber skirt keeper. Okay, yeah, the fact that it's not hand tied. But yeah, it almost has that same bait keeper as the Evo. Just I think the Evo has a slightly better version of this dual keeper, but pretty similar, right? It's almost like Z-Man looked at what the Jackhammer and the Thunder Cricket did well and then merged the two and made a slightly cheaper version in terms of the components and spat out the Evo, which is a great bait. Yeah, Lucas, you say that's why I was intrigued by the slobber knocker. I lost my Thunder Cricket in wood. Lots of wood in my lake. Yep, I hear you. Um, that's rough, and that's why something like one of those freedom chatterbaits could be appealing, I suppose. That's why something old school like the Rage Blade might appeal, right? Um, this Strike King Rage Blade, I believe they still sell them at Walmart. This guy can't go forward and snag. So it's almost like the blade attached to this weight is a weed guard of its own. Um, comes through wood really well. Better than the slobber knocker did in the first place. So give that one a try. Another one in the same. I probably wouldn't recommend this as much, but this is the Booyah Melee. This one will still roll over, even though it has a unique situation going on. I'm going to go ahead and rule that out for you. Uh, just go with the Rage Blade if you find the Slobber Knocker interesting because of its ability to go through wood. Or go with a weedless chatterbait. Throw the cross eyes. Or throw the which one was the one I was thinking of earlier? The Project Z weedless chatterbait. I showed you that one earlier. So try either the Project Z or the cross eyes. Okay, the cross eyes has a flat head and wants to be fished like a jig. It kind of wants to sit on the bottom. Um, I have jigs in so many places that I can't keep track of them. Like I don't know where the Project Z already went on me. My swim jigs. Well, dag nabbit. Um, I showed you the Project Z, but only thing that I'll mention about the Project Z, it has a weed guard on it, a brush guard, and it will kind of swim at a slight angle to it. So instead of swimming horizontally, it will swim head up a little bit. Not a huge problem, um, but I find it to be a little bit better for swimming, whereas the cross eyes looks like and wants to be a jig. And it has that more archy style or flat jig head and wants to sit on bottom and has that good weed guard. And it is very firm. It's made more from plastic than it is like a nylon or monofilament brush guard. So you can really tweak it. But very good bait. Has more of an O'Shaughnessy style hook on it. Both are great baits, especially if you need a weedless chatterbait to get you through some wood. So keep both of those in mind. Project Z weedless or the cross eyes chatterbait. Both are good. Lucas says, I have to dig out my crazy flappers and throw them more too. You were showing Kitech baits, and I was thinking how much I like the crazy flapper. Yep, I'm right in the same boat as you. I love Kitech baits and don't throw them as much as I should on the whole. You know, it's like I'm always trying to experiment with new things. I'm not brand loyal to any one particular brand, and so I'm always on the move trying different things. And as a result, some things get buried. You know, what used to be a tried and true might be a thing of the past, right? The Rage Menace grub from Strike King, I've almost completely replaced with the Z-Man Goat just because of its versatility and and I like the shape better. I like the versatility better. I like the action the same. Uh, yeah, it's just these things happen, right? Bassin with Big Malone says, you cut that big flap right down the middle. Yep. So you cut the middle out and then you leave it kind of outside, like it's a little bit of a rage craw type of deal. Yeah, makes sense. You guys are both right. Big Malone and 505. The Rage Blade from Strike King is what they put on the Hellraiser. So I believe that Strike King maybe still had to license the Rage Blade. Had to pay Z-Man. I'm not totally sure, but regardless, that is exactly what went on the Hellraiser. It's the same deal. So it's almost like the Rage Blade was going by the wayside. And Z-Man said, "You know what? We'll take the remainder of those blades off your hands. We've got an idea." I don't know if that's what actually happened, but it is the same blade for sure. Um, I don't stunt. I don't have any X brides or omens. I have a 13 fishing. What kind of rod is that? It's not quite an omen, but it's a. It was one of the black, maybe the Envy black rods, um, from a few years back. But why do you ask? No NRX either. No. Mark says Walmart has the Rage Blade. It works for me, probably because no one knows about it here and the fish don't see it much. Smallmouth tear into it when I use it. Yeah, no, it's fantastic. The Rage Blade is an underrated bait that people don't throw. Probably did for a couple of years until the chatterbait market just totally exploded and a bunch of things came on to the scene. And the Rage Blade, maybe had its time and place, but was no longer um, a good player for everything, right? So I use a wide variety of different rods. I'm not brand loyal, like I just said. Um, so if I were to think about it, I use St. Croix rods. I use Dobbins rods. I use Luz rods. I use Abu Garcia rods. I use uh, I use probably half a dozen different manufacturers. I'm not brand loyal. It all comes down to either what interests me or what the right price point is or um, what the best bang for the buck for the type of presentation I'm looking for is. So it depends, but there's so many different things out there that I tend to be a little bit more picky with my reels than I am with my rods. But again, I'm not brand loyal. I do throw um, Shimano, I throw Daiwa, I throw Luz, I throw um, Quantum, I throw Abu Garcia. It's a wide variety. So hard to say, but I'm not like a big Dobbins guy, big Shimano guy. You guys are gonna get another ad. Golly. So we've been on here for right about 2 hours. I suppose we should sign off here shortly, but it's been a super fun conversation. I'm glad you guys have hung out. 16 people in here. We're up to 12 likes. Thank you very much for hitting that thumbs up button for me. But uh, go ahead and top this beer off, and we'll be right out of here, guys. Have I tried the Trigon handles? No. I just wanted to double check that I know what you're talking about. you're talking about on St. Croix. Um, I think it's an interesting concept, but not necessarily one that like fully speaks to me. It's not like I fish enough um, with one type of rod to where I need something that specific. Um, I'm mixing up my rods and reels on such a regular basis that I notice more major differences than subtle differences. So a grip shape is not going to be something that I pay a terrible amount of attention to. So, but I don't stunt. You bring up a good question that could be to talk more about rods and reels. What my experience is, what my preferences are, um, maybe what my top recommendations would be given what I've tried um, over the last 8 years or so. Um, so I'd love to do that sometime, but thank you for sparking the idea in my head. And yeah, I'll make a point to bring that up on a future live stream. We'll talk about rods and reels specifically. I'll tell you kind of what has been great for me, what has been not so great, what I would recommend, and what I don't recommend in terms of just what my experience is, which is only a tiny little sliver of the market, right? Um, because again, I prefer with rods to go more bang for the buck for the presentation. Um, since I'm going to be rotating rods frequently. And for reels, I like to bridge the gap. I will go more expensive, but not top end. You know, a Daiwa Zillion or something of the sort is probably about as expensive as I'll go. But I'll still go as low as $100 reel, whether it's a Shimano SLX or a Lose LFS. It kind of depends. So I have a decent amount of experience, but not a lifetime, and I'm not die hard when it comes to any one thing. So be happy to talk about that at another time, guys. I can't believe we've been on 2 hours and I haven't peed once. Give me a thumbs up for that alone. That is rare for me, but it is getting to be late, and I don't even know for certain that my kids aren't sitting on the stairs still. So we're going to sign off here. Thank you so much for hanging out. Hope you have a great rest of your night and an awesome Memorial Day. If any of you guys are folks who have served our country, I thank you very much. Happy Memorial Day. Spend time with your family. Have a great weekend. And I will see you guys again very soon. Hopefully, in about a week, maybe even less. We'll see about that. I'm about to place an order on Discount Tackle. I recommend you guys do some shopping yourself, take advantage of some sales going on, and have a good one. Peace, guys.